right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur and Kasparian with you guys. So big day of news. We obviously have the potential impending war with Iran. We will talk about that in the first hour, and then we've got a lot of campaign news for you guys, including how the candidates responded to Iran and that news. But also, very importantly, Bernie Sanders goes after Joe Biden, to which I say, oh, finally, thanks God, as our parents would say.
It was, that whole interview was a snack.
Yeah.
Like, I loved every part of it. It was a strong interview. I haven't seen an interview that strong, you better believe it. The strongest interview you've ever seen.
Surrounded by other interviews from the standpoint of an interview. All right, let's get started.
All right. Trump's national security advisor, Robert O'Brien, is defending so-called intel indicating that Qasem Soleimani was serving as an imminent threat to the United States, which essentially makes an excuse for Donald Trump's order of an assassination on Soleimani. Now, I want to be clear that the intelligence agencies have not provided any intel, at least publicly, and the Trump administration has not provided any specifics publicly. However, they're still pushing this narrative about how they have the intel and how they're going to share the details of that intel with Congress tomorrow on Wednesday, almost a week after this assassination took place. I would argue that if they had that intel to begin with, they would show it immediately to members of Congress to justify what is now, in my opinion, a war crime, but we'll get to that in a minute. First, let's go to Donald Trump arguing that he knew all about Soleimani's actions, when in reality, he didn't even know who Soleimani was. Take a look.
What can you tell us about what you knew prior to ordering the attack?
Well, number one, I knew the past. His past was horrible. He was a terrorist. He was so designated by President Obama, as you know, and he wasn't even supposed to be outside of his own country. He was, so right there. But that's, in a way, the least of it. We had an attack very recently that he was in charge of where we had people horribly wounded, one dead. In fact, the number now, as of this morning, I believe is 2 dead. And that was his. He was traveling with the head of Hezbollah. They weren't there to discuss a vacation. They weren't there to go to a nice resort someplace in Baghdad. They were there to discuss bad business. And we saved a lot of lives by terminating his life. A lot of lives are saved. They were planning something, and you're going to be hearing about it, or at least various people in Congress are going to be hearing about it tomorrow. Our Secretary of State covered it very well a little while ago. I saw his news conference, Mike. And if you want to mention a couple of things in addition to what I've just said, but we had tremendous information. We've been following him for a long time, and we followed his path for those 3 days, and they were not good stops. We didn't like where he was stopping. They were not good stops. We saved a lot of lives.
Okay, so we have an imbecile for president, you know this, but so.
He said nothing there, let's just be clear.
No, Anna, he clarified by saying he was up to bad business and by going to not good stops. 3rd graders president, and again, it's insulting 3rd graders. So last week we showed you clips of Donald Trump being asked during the election season who Qasem Soleimani was, and he said, "Oh, sure, I know who he is." And
yes.
And then they mentioned the Quds Force, and he's like, "Oh, the Kurds are good guys." And Hugh Hewitt was like, "No, the Quds Force from Iran." He's like, "It's a gotcha question. It's not fair." Well, I thought you said you knew who he was. So now here he is, a couple of years later, claiming he knows Soleimani really, really well. That's why he did this. Why? And what do you know about him? He's making not good stops.
Yeah, that means,
we're going to give you
nothing.
That means absolutely nothing, of course, except that he wanted to show that he was a tough guy by killing an Iranian general. So we're going to get to a quote that will definitively tell you that they knew nothing in a second, okay?
Yeah.
But I want to mention one other thing that he talked about there. He said he's a terrorist. This is a blanket statement that we make of everyone, and that's our enemy, and so it justifies all of our actions and all assassinations and all war crimes because we arbitrarily call them terrorists. Now, did Soleimani's actions lead to other people's deaths? Yes. Is he also the top general of Iran? Yes. So do the actions of some of our generals lead to deaths? Yes. Okay, are they terrorists? No. So Now, even if you say, well, yeah, I know, but I don't like Iran, so I'd like to just call them terrorists. Remember, okay, that's fine, you could feel good about that, but remember it has ramifications.
Right.
Because they then call us terrorists and our generals and our diplomats terrorists, and they say, okay, well, if you have a right to murder our generals, we have a right to murder your generals and your other officials. And by the way, today, Iran at least actually was slightly more measured than Trump and said, what America did was state terrorism. It's also a little bit more correct. And so Iran has done state terrorism, arguably, and now we have apparently done state terrorism. And so now we're all gonna murder one another, and that's how war starts.
Look, this isn't, it's really important for people to understand, this isn't a debate to adjudicate whether or not Soleimani was a bad person, right? No, this is about burden of proof, right? Think of it as like a murder trial, because something as heavy as war deserves a high burden of proof, right? So in this case, in order to unilaterally, without congressional authorization, do a drone strike that assassinates a top general in a sovereign country, you need to provide evidence, irrefutable evidence, that that individual served as an imminent threat. What does an imminent threat mean? It means that he was about to carry out an attack that was going to kill members of our military, US personnel, what have you. They have failed to provide that. Again, this is not a debate about whether or not Soleimani is a bad guy. There are many bad guys around the world that the United States is in bed with. Trump is specifically in bed with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, who ordered the murder of a US journalist and US resident Jamal Khashoggi.
Hey guys, can we just at least all agree that obviously Mohammed bin Salman is a terrorist by this standard? He chopped up a journalist, literally dismembered him. It doesn't get any more terrorist than that. So are we allowed to murder Mohammed bin Salman? Do we have an obligation to murder Mohammed bin Salman? Because this is not my philosophy, this is Donald Trump's philosophy. Now, do you have any idea what would happen if we not randomly, but because of that, assassinated Mohammed bin Salman? A lot of terrible consequences would come from that. I can't stand the Saudi government, but I wouldn't want to assassinate Salman. I'd want to do it through legal processes and bring him to justice for the murder of Khashoggi. But we don't just drop bombs on people because we felt like it or it was in our political best interests.
Because that escalates war, and that actually threatens the lives of more members of our military and US personnel abroad. That's why you have to think about strategy, not whether or not you emotionally find someone appealing enough to not attack them. So look, I have to make one quick clarification as well. In the beginning of the clip that we showed you, Trump said something about how Soleimani was designated by Obama. He wasn't designated by Obama. In fact, since we're talking about Saudi Arabia, Obama in 2011 sanctioned Soleimani specifically because he was targeting our ally, Saudi Arabia. So it's not as if the Obama administration was like buddy-buddy with Soleimani. That is not the case at all. In fact, Obama in 2011, again, sanctioned him. Now with that said, let's go to the National Security Advisor to Donald Trump, Robert O'Brien. He's gonna explain, again, very vaguely, that there is intel that pushed them to do this. Take a look.
The intel that we had, the information we had, which we believe was very strong, showed that Soleimani and those he was plotting with were looking to kill American diplomats and soldiers in significant numbers in the coming days. And that's why the president authorized the successful operation that was undertaken by the US military.
So it's important for you to understand that everything that's coming out of these Trump administration officials is a flat out lie. They're being vague on purpose because they don't have the intel to prove that Soleimani was an imminent threat. In fact, if you don't believe me because you just think, oh, well, she's a progressive and she doesn't want this war, first of all, you're right about that. But let's hear from General Mark Milley, or Milley, I apologize. General Mark Milley, who's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I'm gonna read you his quote. He said, I will be happy when the appropriate time comes and in front of the proper committees and anybody else through history and I will stand by the intelligence I saw that it was compelling, it was imminent, it was very, very, very clear in scale, scope. Okay, fine.
No, that sounds pretty definitive, Anna.
That sounds definitive, right? And then he, I'm not joking, immediately follows that quote with this. Did it exactly say who, what, when, where? No. But he was planning, coordinating, and synchronizing significant combat operations against US military forces in the region, and it was imminent, he said, adding that, quote, we would have been culpably negligent to the American people had we not made the decision we made.
No, it's over, it's over. Did it say when, who, where? No. In other words, you didn't have anything. Okay, you didn't have anything. It's a lie, it's a lie. Did we know who they were gonna kill? No. Wait a minute, you didn't know who they were gonna kill. Then how did you know they were gonna kill anybody? Did we know when or where? No. So then what the hell did you know? You didn't know anything. Everything else is a lie. That's the Joint Chiefs right there, admitting on the record, we didn't know who the hell he was gonna target or if he was gonna target anyone. We just made it up. We just made it up. Why? Donald Trump thought, okay, well, I mean, I have to show that when the embassy is, attacked, it's not going to be a Benghazi. I guarantee you that is the #1 reason. Yeah, distract from impeachment. Yes, want to prove a tough guy, etc. It was the Benghazi thing that I think motivated him the most. Like, I'm going to show that I'm tougher than Obama. I'm going to outdo Obama for once. No, guys, it's over. It's over. The head of the Joint Chiefs said, we had no effing idea. You just saw the quote.
All right, so I want to move on to a different angle in this story. I'm going to actually reset for Zarif's response to this, because it's actually pretty fascinating how measured he was in his interview, considering what the United States has done. So, Iran's foreign minister Javad Zarif granted CNN an interview following Trump's decision to assassinate Iran's top military commander. And what was interesting about this interview was how Zarif had urged Iran to be measured in its retaliation against the United States. In fact, he used the word proportionate. So let's take a quick look at what he had to say.
They killed one of our most revered commanders and most senior commanders, and they took responsibility for it. This is state terrorism. This is an act of aggression against Iran, and it amounts to an armed attack against Iran, and we will respond. But we will respond proportionately, not disproportionately, because we are committed to law. We are law-abiding people. We're not lawless like President Trump.
So one other thing to note is that the Iranian government is also urging that its military stay away from American journalists, tourists, American people in general who are not anything other than civilians, right? So they're not planning on targeting Americans, but they want proportionate retaliation for what Donald Trump did. Look, this is gonna, if they do that, unfortunately, it will further escalate this situation, I think, to a full-blown war, because Trump isn't gonna respond proportionately. Trump isn't gonna sit back. In fact, he's threatened to bomb their cultural sites. He walked that statement back a little bit today, but he's a wild card. You don't know what he's gonna do, and he's incredibly unpredictable.
In fact, he said he would do disproportionate response. Because why not violate several international laws while we can? Why don't we want him to violate international law? Just because we think it's the right thing to do? Yes, it is the right thing to do, but mainly because then we can enforce that law on other nations. If we ourselves violate international law, when the Taliban blows up cultural sites, we have no leg to stand on. If Iran now attacks and kills our troops, they get to say, well, you did it first. And so now what is Donald Trump saying in response? Oh, I'm gonna send you 3,000 more troops to be sitting ducks. What are they doing there? What are they gonna do, invade Iran? No, they're not gonna do that, right? This 3,000 is not enough. So what are they gonna protect Iraq? Iraq wants us to leave because we also murdered military leaders connected to Iraq. And we also murdered civilians in Iraq. So they want us to leave. So what are we sending 3,000 troops for? I'll tell you what we're sending him for: to be sitting ducks, to get killed, so Donald Trump can feel like a tough guy and respond through war.
And the fact of the matter is, we're inching closer and closer to war, which means that US personnel in the Middle East is less safe. Israel is preparing in case Iran attacks them as a proxy, right?
I don't know if you saw this, Anna. You know what Netanyahu said now? He turned around and said, oh, look, man, this war's got nothing to do with us. This is America's war, not our war.
It's amazing.
After you pushed us to do this for year after year after year, now he has the nerve to turn around and say, oh, you should attack America, not us. We don't have anything to do with it.
No, look, honestly, none of that surprises me. And look, the Israeli government is one thing, but what everyone should be concerned about is the people of Israel. They are put in harm's way as a result of our actions. US personnel and military abroad, they're put in harm's way as a result of what Donald Trump did. There was no thought of strategy, no thought of repercussions. And what I also found interesting about Zarif's interview with CNN is he asked a question that I think all Americans who are considering supporting this war should ask themselves. Take a look.
You have said that Iran will retaliate for the targeted killing of General Qasem Soleimani. President Trump has said there would be a disproportionate response if you do that. What do you make of President Trump's threats?
His threats will not frighten us. But what he's showing something, he's showing to the international community that he has no respect for international law, that he is prepared to commit war crimes because attacking cultural sites is a war crime. In this disproportionate response is a war crime. But he doesn't care, it seems, about international law. But has he made US more secure? Do Americans feel more secure? Are Americans welcome today in this region? Do they feel welcome?
So look, I'm sure there are people in the right wing who will have a very different response or answer from the response and answer that someone like I would have, right? And my answer is no, I of course don't feel more safe. In fact, I don't feel safe for the people who are serving in our military and they're, as you mentioned, Cenk, earlier, sitting ducks in the Middle East right now. This is, you don't provoke war and feel safer as a result of that.
Iran says we're not going to kill US civilians. We'll only target proportionally the military as they targeted our military. Trump goes, oh great, then I'll serve up 3,000 people for you to kill. Why? What are they doing there? What are the 3,000 troops going to do when Iraq doesn't want us and Iran says, the only reason you bring them here is for me to attack them? So they're not gonna invade Iran. Okay, look, let me give you the Netanyahu quote, because even Netanyahu knows it has made us less safe. It has made Israel less safe. He agitated for that war 1,000 times. And then now apparently he's telling his own ministers, quote, the killing of Soleimani is a US event, not an Israeli event, and we should stay out of it. Saying we shouldn't, quote, get dragged into it. You're the one who insisted that we attack Iran, attack Iran. And it's not just him, it's also the neoconservative right wing here in America. The John Boltons of the world, the Dick Cheneys of the world, all of these people who said, oh, you gotta attack Iran. Now, as soon as Trump does it, they're like, idiot, hey, I don't want anything to do with it. This thing's really, really unsafe. Well, that's what we were saying ahead of time. And now after the hostilities begin, all of a sudden, Netanyahu's like, oh, I don't want to get dragged into it. It's the Americans. Good. I mean, look at the nerve of the guy to basically say, go attack the Americans, not us. So there is no one safer now. The idea that Pompeo's of the world and Trump is saying that now people are safe. Does anyone in their rational minds believe that? Even Netanyahu in his irrational mind doesn't believe that. No one believes it. We have made the world far less safe by doing this killing.
We got to take a break. When we come back, luckily there are some people on the right who are skeptical about this war and they are calling Donald Trump out publicly. You'll be surprised at one of these individuals when we return.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. Let's go to our members' comments first. Silent Approval says, Anna, you can't just fabricate evidence overnight. It takes about a week. That's why they're probably taking a week to tell us what the evidence is that they don't know.
It's not even to tell us, it's to tell the Gang of Eight.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, you're supposed to talk to Congress about these things, but no, Trump's just unilaterally making these types of decisions.
Theater Goddess says, I wore my first TYT shirt that I got during the 25% off shirt, and it's now one of my favorites. It's super soft and fits like a dream, even though I usually wear a bigger size than was available. What did I tell you guys, okay? I told you those are the best shirts on earth. Okay, shop tyt.com. Thank you, Theater Goddess. On Twitter, Adam Johnson says, nobody knows more about bad business than Trump, believe me. And Storm and Norman makes the same point that Edwin, our stage manager, did during the break. They found intel about Iran in the north, south, east, West, and around the region. That's pretty specific. So old Don Rumsfeld quote about where the WMD was. Okay, so there they are again. Now YouTube super chat. Matthew Hahn says, how do I become a YouTube member so I can watch full shows that way? The app closes out for me when I try to watch live that way. Probably my internet. Yes, the app works fine. It probably is your internet, but you could download it if you remember. So look, on YouTube, it's the join button underneath the video. And there's 3 layers. The top layer, $9.99, gets you all of our content. But you could also do it through our website, and you'll definitely have access to all of our content for sure. TYT.com/join. But we love the YouTube membership as well. French Fry says, this is why Pelosi should have moved faster with impeachment. Trump is out of control. He needs to be given boundaries. And finally, Janine Mary, also on YouTube Super Chat, says, thanks for your clear reporting. Well, thank you for using YouTube Super Chat and becoming YouTube members and members on our website. Otherwise, we very much literally cannot do this show. All right, Anna, what's next?
All right. While the majority of the right wing seems to defend Donald Trump's decision to assassinate Iran's top military general, there are some people in right-wing media and even in government who are calling him out and disagreeing with him in a very public way. Now, we're gonna get to Tucker Carlson in just a minute, but before we do, I actually wanna go to an elected official, Rand Paul. Take a look.
This is sad. I mean, the death of Soleimani, I think, is the death of diplomacy with Iran. I don't see an off-ramp. I don't see a way out of this.
So did the president make a major mistake?
I think that he got bad advice. I think that basically, even though he let John Bolton go, this is John Bolton. John Bolton's clapping and jumping up and down and rubbing his hands together really is part of this whole recipe. The administration, mainly at John Bolton's behest, tore up the Iran agreement, placed a significant and severe embargo on Iran, and then killed one of their major generals. Nobody in their right mind would actually think that that would lead to negotiation. So when Secretary of State Pompeo is out there saying, well, maximum pressure, our goal is to get them back to the negotiating table. No naive child would believe that. You would have to be brain dead to believe that we tear up the agreement, we put an embargo on you, and we kill your major general, and they're just going to crawl back to the table and say, what do you want, America? I mean, military escalation is really what you would predict with this.
All right, well, look, that was incredibly strong. He said you'd have to be brain dead to think that. And he said that right after he clarified that Pompeo did say that. So he's calling Pompeo brain dead. He's also calling Trump brain dead.
Which is, I mean,
which is obviously true, but that's a Republican senator saying that. And so, and he's right. And that's why it's like when Republicans actually say something that's true, which is such a rare exception, it really is like a clarion call, because the Democrats are usually so weak. They've been okay actually, on this, actually, surprisingly okay. But Republicans usually say it clearer. So I mean, you never catch Democrats calling Trump brain dead. But there's a Republican. He's a Republican, so he's like, look, man, if you break the agreement and you do embargo and sanction and you murder their general, of course they're not going to come to the negotiating table. They're going to do the opposite.
Right.
Everybody knows that. So what he's saying is Pompeo and Trump are liars, and what they want is war. And he conveniently threw in Bolton a bunch of times there. It's true, Bolton does want war, but Bolton's out of the government. Bolton didn't do this, Trump did this.
Trump did this, but look, I actually think that Trump, his motivations are a little different from the war hawks, right? Because what Trump wants is to one-up Obama. That's the reason why he pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal, because in his ridiculous, like narcissistic head, he thinks, oh, I can get a better deal, I can get a better deal. That's why he pulled out. And then, because he's an idiot, the situation with Iran escalates to the point where you have this situation at the embassy with protesters showing up, lighting certain portions of the embassy on fire, which is serious. And Trump doesn't want to be seen as someone who's weak, like how he says Obama was during Benghazi. And that was his motivation to react in the way he did against Soleimani. But look, the problem with Trump is that he doesn't know anything. Right? Like, he doesn't know anything in business, and he certainly doesn't know anything when it comes to foreign policy. He shoots from the hip. He's a guy who just bases everything on how he's feeling on that given moment or in that given moment. And he doesn't think about the consequences or repercussions. But with that said, look, I love everything that, I can't even believe I'm saying that, but everything that Rand Paul said there was right. Tucker Carlson is also about to make some pretty strong arguments from a kind of different perspective, but I want to see what you have to say about it. Take a look.
What's so striking is how many people appear to accept this uncritically. Just the other day, you remember, our intel agencies were considered politically tainted and suspect. Certainly on this show they were, and will be for quite some time. Keep in mind, these are the people who invented excuses to spy on the Trump campaign purely because they didn't like Donald Trump's foreign policy views. And they're the ones who pretended he was a Russian agent in order to keep him from governing. Remember that? Russiagate? Our friends in the intel community did that. And by the way, these are the same people who lied about Iraq's weapons of mass destruction way back in 2002. And by doing that, got us into an utterly pointless war that dramatically weakened our country. The people pushing conflict with Iran are the same people who did that. It seems like about 20 minutes ago, we were denouncing these very people as the deep state and pledging never to trust them again without verification. But now, for some reason, we do seem to trust them implicitly and completely. In fact, we believe whatever they tell us, no matter how outlandish.
So, look, all we do on this show is give credit where credit is due and call out things not based on partisanship, but based on reality. So that is why we often criticize Democratic leadership. But today, I said Democratic leadership's actually doing a pretty good job on this. They're calling for open hearings on Iran. So we don't do it blindly. Now, when it comes to Tucker Carlson, there are things that I disagree with him. I don't know if you can 100% is enough or 1,000%. So immigration, he is horrific on. I don't agree with him that there is a deep state that was conspiring against Donald Trump. But at least he's being consistent, and it is something that is very noteworthy coming from the right wing in this country and on Fox News. Sean Hannity, for example, is a counter to Tucker Carlson, will mindlessly, brainlessly repeat any talking point of any president that is a Republican at any time. And whatever a Democrat says, he will say the exact opposite. It doesn't have to be logically consistent at all, okay? Whereas Tucker Carlson says, wait a minute, didn't we just say 20 minutes ago that we shouldn't believe the intelligence community at all? Now we're turning around saying our beloved intelligence community, by the way, the people saying that are on Fox News. Fox and Friends, Sean Hannity, etc. are going, how could the Democrats question our intelligence community? They should bow down, bow down to the intelligence community. And Tucker Carlson points out an inconvenient fact. You were the same people 20 minutes ago saying how they could never, ever be trusted. So you do have to give him credit for that. He is right about that. And look, guys, it is important for there to be voices on the right that are correct, and don't look a gift horse in the mouth. The problem with establishment Democrats like Joe Biden is that they agree with the Republicans on their ground. But if Republicans or right wingers come to our ground, and for example, in this case, say, we don't want endless wars for no reason, take it, take yes for an answer. Tucker Carlson there is certainly correct, at least about half of his analysis, which is that these guys have been wrong 1,000 times, and sometimes on purpose. I mean, especially, and certainly about war.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. But look, I mean, you should always be skeptical of anyone in government in any type of position of power. But in the case of the Russia investigation and the impeachment investigation, the intelligence community showed their work. They showed their proof. You have witnesses testifying, right? There's actual evidence that was open to the public. And in terms of the Russia investigation, there was hundreds of pages produced by the Mueller report that's open to the public right now that people can read. When it comes to this alleged intel to encourage the assassination of Soleimani, nothing. We haven't gotten anything, just vague responses from the Trump administration, and that's not good enough. So he's right in that regard. Now, Laura Ingraham went on a very lengthy rant talking about how the Democrats are the ones who got us into this mess, which is ridiculous.
Insane.
Insane. But there was a relevant part at the very tail end of her commentary, and I don't think it's an accident that she structured her argument this way. But in the argument at the very end, she makes a plea to Donald Trump. Let's hear what it is.
It's important that the president listens to his judgment here, that he doesn't listen to the same people who got us sucked into Iraq in the first place. The Bush doctrine is dead, and Trump helped bury it. Thank God. His recent tweets notwithstanding, the president, I think, is very smart. He's very smart enough to know that another war of choice or needless escalation will end up harming American interests, not to speak of his re-election chances. America first, America safe, America strategic, America smart. And that's the angle.
So you have Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham speaking out against escalating war with Iran. And in a little bit, I'll show you how Hannity, who's a huge Trump supporter no matter what, actually went after them on his own show.
So that is also very, very important, guys. Look, she has to do a lead in about how everything is the Democrats' fault. It's insane, but it's understandable given that she's on Fox News and appealing to that audience and to Trump. If you notice at the end, she spoke really, really slowly because she's speaking to Donald Trump. And so she has to speak to him like he's a baby. Remember your re-election chances. America first, America safe, right? And so, but it's super important, guys, for both Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham to say this is a war of choice and needless escalation. The fact that there is now a division in the right wing where even some of the worst people in the right wing are saying, nope, we don't agree to endless war. We don't agree to it. We will not repeat talking points given to us, is a giant breakthrough. I haven't seen it in 20 years in this country. Before, when Roger Ailes was in charge, everyone was forced to say the same goddamn thing that Roger Ailes told them to say. That was the whole point of Fox News. Roger Ailes and Rupert Murdoch controlled it with an iron fist. And so no one was allowed to dissent. Now, Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham a little bit, but you saw it right there, are saying, a lot of the people in the right wing, and the reason our shows are popular and more popular than Hannity is because a lot of people in the right wing don't want war either. And look, and now let me point out her hypocrisy. Now the Bush doctrine is dead, thank God. I remember when you loved the Bush doctrine. We have ears, we have eyes. We saw you, Laura, when you, at least Tucker in the beginning agreed with the Iraq war, but changed his mind quickly. He's on the record on that. And he changed his mind for terrible reasons because he said he didn't care about the Iraqis at all and said some terrible things about them. But he was a little bit more consistent. Laura Ingraham, you love the Bush doctrine, you love the Iraq war. You couldn't get enough of it.
Yep.
But now she sees not Trump, not people like Roger Ailes, Rupert Murdoch, but her own audience saying, we don't want the war, we don't want the war. So now she regurgitates that back to them in order to be popular. That's a super important development.
Definitely. All right, so with that said, let's go to Hannity, who attacked his colleagues for refusing to defend Donald Trump.
You knock out those 3 refineries, their economy will totally and completely collapse. And despite the whining and the complaining, predictably among Democrats and the stupid commentators on TV and the media mob, top military experts agree that the president's strategy is effective.
Effective in what exactly?
What? Yeah.
In escalating the situation to a full-blown war? Because he's real effective at that.
Hannity's a blockhead. Jeez. He's one of the dumbest guys on TV. I love the audacity of him saying stupid commentators on TV. The stupid commentators on TV is you defined, Sean Hannity. So now I guess he's in open warfare with Tucker Carlson, who came on right before him, said we shouldn't do a needless war in Iran. So that's a fascinating development. But Hannity, look at the incredibly dumb thing he's saying. He said, well, we knock out the refineries, then they'll see. Same stupid thing he said about Iraq. Oh, we'll knock them out, then they'll see. And we'll be greeted as liberators. How'd that turn out for us? Oh, they'll give in right away. Then they'll know that we're better than them. Is that how it turned out? No, it turned out with bomb after bomb after bomb. 4,500 of our troops killed. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqi civilians killed. And now that same idiot is making the same point about Iran. Oh, we'll just knock them out, okay? It'll be real easy. And then they'll know we're tougher guys than them. Oh, I can't believe people don't see that. Hannity, the single dumbest person on television.
When we come back, we'll show you how Democrats are responding to this. Adam Schiff gave an interview to the Washington Post, and he has an idea when it comes to questioning the intelligence community about Donald Trump's decision here. So we'll be back with that and more.